The road to becoming a good and successful investor might be a bit more wobbly than you'd expect. And watching all of the success stories that especially we YouTubers show you, of course, teaches you also something about investing, and it obviously feels motivating and encouraging to watch this. But there's another thing that you can and should do if you want to become a successful investor. Listen to the things that went wrong. Because I can tell you one thing, learning from other people's mistakes is much cheaper than doing the mistakes yourself. In this video, I'm going to show you how I managed to miss a 1100% increase, so a real 10-bagger, despite investing in a truly great and wonderful business. And I tell you exactly which 3 mistakes I made so that you can do it better once you're in a similar situation. SBUX had its initial public offering, so the first time they were listed at a stock exchange, on the 26th of June in 1992. They expanded their business through the 90s strongly, and the stock price developed in lockstep with the growth. 2002 was the year I discovered SBUX as a brand for myself. It wasn't really existing yet in Germany. At that time, I was living and working in Shanghai in China. Although I really like the Chinese culture and the Chinese food, and I still do, from time to time I wanted to enjoy a coffee, well, the way I knew it from home. If you ever lived abroad, you may relate to this feeling. So I discovered the SBUX cafes and instantly knew and understood, well, the magic of their concept that pulled myself and millions of others regularly into their cafes, despite quite pricey beverages and food. And then mistake number 1 happened. I didn't do anything with this knowledge. I was already investing at that time and still suffered from the losses of the burst of the new economy bubble about 1.5 years ago. Had I acted on this feeling for and the understanding of the concept, and had I started to do my research and the business analysis, I would have found out 5 years earlier what a great company SBUX already was. By the way, SBUX was trading at around $5 to $6 per stock back then. The inevitable happened, and the great company SBUX continued to grow. In 2006 and 2007, I then discovered SBUX as a business, and the financials were great. Lots of free cash flow, low debt, high margins. The only thing that was maybe a tiny bit of a concern had been the resignation of the founder Howard Schultz as CEO in 2005. After the price dropped in 2007 from a peak of around $20 per stock to somewhere around $13 to $13.50, I decided to buy. This was the last right thing I did in this operation, even considering what happened next. After I purchased, the stock continued to decline further and fell until a minimum of less than $4 per stock. And this was when mistake number 2 happened. I let emotions control my actions and didn't act on my rationale. It wasn't that I didn't understand what went on. The world was in its most severe financial crisis since decades. There were simply less people who could afford to buy a $5 coffee. And the company itself started to do a lot of good and right things and took some right decisions. First of all, Howard Schultz came back as CEO, and his analysis was completely contrary to what the analysts of the markets expected. In Howard's opinion, SBUX had actually grown too fast while compromising the core and the heart and soul of SBUX brand way too much. One of his first actions was to send all of his baristas in the US to a nationwide 3-hour barista training to improve the coffee quality. Imagine this. The company and the world is in a serious financial crisis, and the CEO closes the whole US part of the chain for an entire afternoon. This was of course financially brutal, but marketing-wise it was a stroke of genius. Additionally, he started several other activities. He strengthened the cost basis, improved the profitability, and introduced new products like, for example, high-quality instant coffee. Everybody could have seen this. everybody could have been able to interpret the activities and the financials. And it would have been easy to buy Starbucks below $5 per stock, where it was trading for several months in 2009. But I didn't act on my analysis and my rationale. After its low of below $4 per stock, it went up again over the year 2009. And this was when mistake number 3 happened. This time I acted, but unfortunately I acted on emotions rather than facts and figures of the analysis I had made that still indicated a strong and great company. Considering the circumstances, also good and healthy financial figures. After the stock price had lost circa 70% from my purchase price of circa $13.50, it felt so relieving to get rid of this stock with only a small loss. And I sold at circa $10 in September 2009. What happened in the next 12 years since my sale of the stock could have been forecasted already in 2009, at least partially. Starbucks didn't go belly up. Their debt were too low. Their financials, their brand and their business too strong. When the world started to get the financial crisis under control, the strengthened business gained a lot of traction again and started to grow on the seeds that had been sowed during the financial crisis. Starbucks stock went up with the growth of the business to more than $120 per stock, which is an increase of 1,100% compared to my selling price and an increase of 2,300% compared to the low level it traded for several months in 2009. As dumb as these mistakes had been, I at least learned a lot from them and applied this really successfully in my investments a few years later. And if you want to know how I used the experience from these mistakes to make my first 18-bagger with a seemingly boring investment in the company Logitech, you should definitely watch this video here. See you in the next one.